Robin Roberts is an amazing talent on American television. She's the woman who made Good Morning America a place of truth, warmth, and incredible strength for millions of people watching over many years. Her wonderful storytelling, her strong will, and her deep understanding of emotions made her much more than just a news reporter. She became the person America looked to whenever the world felt scary. From the simple shores of Mississippi to the top of national TV, she proved that greatness can come from being simple, working hard, and having a heart ready to fight through any storm. But behind that amazing success is a story full of scars. Robin survived the scary disease of breast cancer, then had to fight MDs, a sickness that almost took her life. And now, at 65 years old, a new storm is coming straight at her. It's fierce, mean, and ready to tear apart the peaceful life she spent forever fighting to protect. Before we step into the heart of that storm, don't forget to leave a like. A way to say thank you to a woman who has never fallen, no matter how dark the sky. Becomes it's heartbreaking how life can be cruel from the very first breath. Robin Roberts came into a world where challenges tested her before anyone even knew she was there. She was born on November 23, 1960, in Tuskegee, Alabama. She was the youngest of 4 kids in a home ruled by discipline, duty, and a quietness shaped by her father's past. Colonel Lawrence E. Roberts was one of the famous Tuskegee Airmen. He carried memories he never talked about in the stiff way he held his shoulders and the faraway look in his eyes. Her mother, Lusa Marion, brought faith, music, and gentleness into the spaces left behind by military life. She made things softer without ever erasing the hardness, growing up between a gentle mother and a battle-tested father. Robin learned as early as 5 years old that strength was not something you were just given. It had to be earned. The home was loving, yes, but under that love was the tension of a man who had seen the worst of people, and a woman who wanted to lift her children above a world that could be mean without warning. Her earliest memories were not of easy laughter, but of the strict order of a military home where even the smallest task mattered, and nothing was ever done halfway. As the baby of the family, she felt deeply loved, but also closely watched. She was shaped, guided, and sometimes pushed harder than she understood. My parents taught us the 3 Ds: discipline, determination, and a Lord, she would later remember. And those words were not just encouragement. They were rules woven into every breath of her childhood. Excuses were not allowed. Weakness was not accepted, and the world outside their front door offered no safe place. Alabama and Mississippi in the 1960s had the quiet, cutting edges of separation by race, where people's looks stayed too long, and doors opened differently depending on who stood in front of them. By age 10, Robin already knew what it felt like to be overlooked, thought less of, or judged before she even spoke. The sting of quiet prejudice did not break her spirit. It made her stronger when the family finally moved to Pass Christian, Mississippi. Robin walked into a coastal town that was both beautiful and harsh. Life there was simple, humble, and always threatened by storms. She was just 8 years old when Hurricane Camille roared onto land in 1969. It was a night of violence the entire Gulf Coast would never forget. She watched roofs lift like paper, trees twist into splinters, and neighbors hold on to whatever pieces of their lives the wind hadn't taken. The next morning, she walked through streets covered with glass, branches, and memories torn apart. These storms were more than just natural disasters. They were tough, mean teachers. They showed her how quickly safety could break, how easily certainty could fall apart, and how survival needed courage long before comfort. She learned these truths, not with fear, but with a quiet steadiness that settled into the deepest parts of her young spirit. Yet in the middle of the discipline, the storms, the unspoken weight of war, and the harsh social realities of the Deep South, Something amazing was growing inside her. Robin did great in school, graduating as salutatorian in 1979. Her love for sports burned with the force of someone who had been waiting her entire life to breathe freely. Basketball and tennis were not just hobbies. They were her escape, her change, her rebellion against every force that tried to keep her small. Coaches saw her hunger. Teachers saw her brightness. Friends saw her kindness. But only Robin understood the iron being built inside her. Built by the clash of military strictness, racial barriers, and a world where storms could erase a childhood in a single night. These early wounds did not weaken her. They created the steel of a woman who would one day stand unshaken, no matter how fierce the winds became. The world did not simply refuse to open its doors for Robin Roberts. It slammed them so hard in her face that at just 22, she learned to force her way through the cracks with shaking, scraped hands and a heart that refused to give up. In 1982, freshly graduated from Southeastern Louisiana University, she carried only a diploma, a burning dream, and the strong values her parents had given her. But the moment she stepped toward the broadcasting world, reality hit her with a coldness she had never known. Her first job in 1983 at WDAM in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, paid so little that she often joked later, "I made more money babysitting in college." Yet even in the joke, there was pain. She worked 12 to 14 hours a day because she understood clearly that no one in that newsroom believed a young black woman could survive, let alone succeed in sports journalism. "I knew I had to be twice as good just to be considered equal." She would recall decades later, her voice steady, but her eyes still, carrying the weight of those early wounds. During those years, hunger wasn't about food. 'Twas the constant fire inside her, the ambition that kept her awake long after midnight. Money was painfully tight. She drove beat-up used cars that wheezed, coughed, and sometimes died on empty Mississippi backroads after late-night shoots. She lived in cramped, drafty apartments where winter crept under the door and wrapped itself around her ankles. Turning the heat on wasn't an option. It meant risking going over budget. There were nights when rain dripped through a warped window frame, tapping over and over onto the carpet, and Robin sat at her tiny kitchen table, head in her hands, whispering to herself, "Hold on, Robin, just hold on. You're not quitting now." She wasn't homeless, but she was painfully alone. 23, 24, 25 years old, fighting exhaustion and fear while holding on to a dream no one else could see. Her life balanced dangerously on short-term contracts that could disappear overnight with a simple management change. And more than once, they nearly did. She uprooted her entire world again and again, from Hattiesburg to Biloxi in 1984, from Biloxi to Nashville in 1986, then to Atlanta in 1988. Each move stripped her down to nothing. No friends, no familiar faces. No safety net, just another town where she had to prove from zero that she deserved to exist in the very profession she loved. She carried her own camera gear, drove herself to rural high school stadiums, set up tripods in mud, wrote every script by hand, and edited late into the night long after the newsroom lights had shut off. She became her own cameraman, her own producer, her own driver, not out of ambition, but out of sheer survival. She never forgot the sting of one moment in 1987 when a male coworker brushed past her and muttered, "Sports isn't a place for women." Another time, an athlete snickered when she walked into a locker room with a microphone. And though the embarrassment cut sharply, she later said, "I learned early on not to let someone else's disbelief become my reality." There were nights she drove hundreds of miles along empty southern highways, her old car rattling in the wind, headlights cutting slices of white across the darkness. Tears blurred her vision. Exhaustion tightened her chest, and she gripped the steering wheel, praying she wouldn't fall asleep behind it. She whispered into the darkness, "One day they'll see me. One day I won't have to prove I belong. Coaches dismissed her. Athletes looked down on her. Some viewers questioned why a black woman was reporting on sports. But Robin had survived storms far older and far fiercer. Storms of a divided South. Storms of discipline from a military home. Storms of expectation. And slowly, every rejection became fuel. Every closed door became a dare. Every doubt became a spark. Atlanta changed everything. Covering the Braves at age 28 gave her visibility, credibility, and for the first time, momentum. It was therein the late 1980s that she realized she was no longer chasing approval. She was becoming undeniable.